Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be a part of this session number 5. It's also a thrill for me to be involved in this topic tonight about brand, because I spent 20 years as a reporter and an anchor. So media, brand, marketing, partnerships, all of that is really kind of my life's work. And I do feel like it's never been more important. It can be challenging, as we all know. There are a lot of outlets out there to get your message out, but things can change quickly, as we've seen. So I want to get to our guests tonight, because they're going to give us such an interesting perspective, particularly with this team that has had such wild success. Nikki Donofrio is the Vice President of Marketing, Events, and Entertainment. Christi Bedan is the VP of Digital and Media, and Adam Smith is the Director of Corporate Partnership Development. Christi, I'm going to start with you. How do you, for the Bucs, how do you guys approach social media? What seems to work too? It to me sometimes feels like the Wild West, in that you kind of don't know what's going to happen when you put something out there. How do you approach it?
It's true. Yeah. So, hey, nice to meet you all. Thanks, Jane. And so great to be here with you all tonight. So yes, how we approach social, so at the end of the day, Bucs as a team, Bucs organization, our job is to entertain, to support the community we're in. And at the end of the day, we're a business, right? So we've got to drive business objectives too. So as we look at how we're approaching social media, we really take that holistic approach and approach it by platform. Twitter is our platform where we are very focused on news and information and quick clips that we know can spread with like a minute's notice in the feed. You'll see that's where we don't put full press conferences. We put press clips or quote graphics, because you might get a little more traction there than a full video with like the attention span on that platform in general. So overall, we take a full look at the story we want to tell first and foremost, and then how it makes sense to tell it on which platform based on what we know does succeed on each platform. And then there are sometimes, to your point, Jane, where we're just like, let's give this a shot. There's platforms that are new, like TikTok, where we're like, no one has answers on what's succeeding and what doesn't. So let's give something a try, and we'll definitely do that. And we'll adjust as algorithms change as well. And as the platforms go from just Instagram to Instagram stories to Instagram reels to IGTV, we adapt accordingly. So big picture, we understand the objectives and customize by platform.
Yeah, and Christi, I'll just stay with you for a second. What kind of metrics do you use, and what do you look for? Is it just how many people have seen a post? Do they have to actually engage and respond back or comment or retweet or repost?
I always say it's not one answer for everything, right? Because again, you're looking to drive the overall business. So at its core, we want to entertain and engage fans, right? So we're always going to look at engagement, but there's sponsors, for example, that may be more impression driven. And so we'll take an approach where we're like, make sure to get more impressions than engagement being the priority. Engagement will ultimately probably drive more conversion from like a funnel marketing perspective, but it's not necessarily what's going to drive impressions. We do have ad sales on some of our social platforms separate from our sponsorships. And so we may put something out that we may make a decision that we know this isn't a type of content that gets a ton of engagement, but we also know it's one that Twitter prioritizes in their revenue and in their program. And so we will make the choice to put it out anyway to drive that business objective. Long-winded way of saying it's not one thing that we're looking at, but holistically evaluating each story we want to tell, each piece of content, and ensuring it does fit into one of the overall priorities and metrics that makes sense.
Well, it's a good answer to explain how complicated it is, right? It seems simple. If you have your personal accounts, you just throw something up there, but it's much more complicated when you are talking about a brand. Nikki, obviously everything Christi puts up, she said, is within this idea of the Buccaneers brand. That is your job and your domain. How do you describe it to people? You have to be able to kind of synthesize it. What is the Buccaneers brand?
So at the core, it's the heart and soul is we believe football is for everyone, right? So if you start from there and you say, okay, our mission as an organization, as a brand, is to grow the game of football, also to provide really authentic and engaging fan experiences and then ultimately also give back to our community. So anything we're doing from a marketing or branding perspective, we look at those sort of three pillars. Our brand is very human and heartfelt, and you can see that from the content that we put out, whether it's, showcasing what players are doing in the community, or it's telling a great story that happened on the field, or it's telling a great story that happened off the field, and it's an event that the Buccaneers have put on for their fans. So when you look at all of those different pieces, I mean, at the end of the day, we're Buccaneers. We're sort of looking for adventure. We want to embody the spirit of Tampa Bay, but we really want to bring to life our brand and our fans and have that unique touch point with them along the way, whether it's engaging with them through social, as Christi said, or a lot of times, I mean, we'll host over 200 events in a normal year, and we'll be out in the market, we'll be out in the community, talking to fans, giving away giveaways, having them play some of our inflatables and quarterback challenges, and really getting them to engage with the brand on a one-on-one basis, and start to, at a young age, start to really engage with the brand. So we're trying to, at the end of the day, like I said, we believe football is for everyone, whether you're young, old, whether you've been in Tampa Bay for a long time or you're new to the area. We really want everyone to embrace that brand, and everything we do from a marketing and branding perspective is a little bit unique by channel, but at the core, we're trying to get that engagement with our fans.
And how has that changed? The experience inside a stadium has changed so dramatically over the decades. When you talk about it's for all, how much of your focus is that, and what the experience is like for families, et cetera?
We try to have something for everyone. And that sounds, kind of generic, but it's really true. We have lots of activities for kids to do. We have fun tailgates for them. We have activities. We have, drills that they can run before they go into the game. And then you get to Bucs Beach, and that's sort of a new entertainment zone that we opened it a few years ago, where we have entertainment, we have stilt walkers, we have our Buck Beat line, pirates are out there performing, and there's all this, festival type atmosphere where fans can just come, they can have a beer, they can take pictures with the giant Lombardi trophies, they can just sort of hang out and have a good time pregame. And that sets the stage for when they're entering the gates, because once they enter the gates, we try to throw on the best party in Tampa Bay. I mean, we really try, between our graphics and our videos and our content and our stories that we're telling with our players being out in the community, and all the wonderful things that happen on the field, we're trying to make sure that it's a high energy, lots of fun atmosphere. I mean, we get more than I can tell you, so many other teams telling us, man, when we come to your stadium, it really feels like a party and we have a great time. And regardless of the play on the field, the fans are having a great time. And of course we have cannons, and we're the only stadium with cannons. So we fire the cannons, and we get fans excited by that. We have bead giveaways, pirate ship, we're throwing beads, and we're throwing t-shirts, and we really want it to be a fun atmosphere. So no matter what happens on the field, you walk away saying, I had a really great time at that game and I want to go back, and I want to be part of that brand.
I can assure you there was no beach at Soldier Field in the 1970s in the middle of December. There was, but it didn't feel like yours, that's for sure. Adam, let's talk a bit about partnerships. And I was saying to you a little earlier, if you and I sat down next to each other at a Bucs game, the first thing I would say to you, and I'm sure other people have asked you this dozens of times, so the news breaks that your team signs Tom Brady. What happens to your phone and the interest in partnerships?
And that could probably be its own segment.
Yes.
Do its own summit with that, but it was surreal. That also comes off of we had left the office with COVID about 2 weeks prior, and it was right around that time when everybody's life changed a little bit. But the interest, the excitement was surreal, and we really haven't looked up since, to be honest. That translated from getting Tom to ticket sales to unknown to a year with what we reference as make goods, and finding ways to create solutions for partners in a world that just looks different, and the traditional components or benefits of their agreements didn't necessarily exist, to this Cinderella-esque story of the playoff run, to first ever team to play in your own venue for the Super Bowl, and then you win it, and the boat parade, list goes on. But it's been an incredible experience. I've been here, this is my 10th season, and you learn not to take the success for granted on the field, because it's a very competitive league, We on the business side don't necessarily control any of that. So it's been a phenomenal experience. And I definitely have sounded smarter. My hair has looked thicker ever since Tom came on board, and the success has happened.
That's so funny. So all these companies, people, organizations are contacting you in the midst of all this success. How do you go about figuring out what is the right kind of alignment for your team, your brand, and what makes sense?
Probably start with consistency first. And I think with the consistency of our ownership group and a little bit of a constant model that we've maintained on the partnership side, it's a little bit atypical. We have a little bit of a less is more approach. We're a little bit more conservative in terms of quantity, and it's allowed us to provide what we feel really confident is a unique and strong value proposition. Maintaining that consistency when a team is struggling on the field, as well as when they're successful, I think has been something I'm grateful to have the opportunity and kind of the North Star of guiding light, where that's how we're going to do it. Since the success, our model, our approach, our prices, if you will, all of those things from a partnership perspective have not changed. And I think that shows a partner first model. So that's been probably the biggest key is really doing not a whole lot different on this as far as, evaluating who to work with. One of the blessings is opportunity, especially on the national stage. You're going to get more national brands that are going to look to Tampa Bay and to the region and to Florida now and say, hey, we have heightened interest.
Can I go back a second to the idea of social media? I mean, the question I wanted to ask Adam is all about, what happens when you get Tom Brady and then you end up winning the Super Bowl at home, that kind of like seminal moment. So you have kind of a segment I might put on social in that same category of you have Tommy and Gronky. So this very funny duo who sits, I guess, usually with the feet in the baby pool, right? And the flamingos and the whole thing. Where did that come from? And how has that been like kind of like a big turning point socially for getting people who maybe are not necessarily Bucs fans come to you and to your sites?
Yeah, this has been such a fun one for the past 2 years. So ultimately, after we signed Gronk and we were like, okay, look, we've got Tom and Rob Gronkowski on our team. We grouped as a department and we were like, how are we going to share their personality, right? One of our objectives is telling the story off the field, helmets off, and building the personality of our players. And we looked at the two of the best personalities in the NFL and said, how are we going to do this? Knowing how well they were on camera, we put the frameworks together and the idea of just these fun concepts that we could shoot multiple episodes of and that they could kind of run with. And they all loved it. They were on board and we made it happen.
Nikki, I thought it was really interesting. I was reading all your resumes that you, if I'm correct, worked at Six Flags amusement parks for 11 years. Is that right?
Correct.
I'd just be curious for the group to know, what skills did you take from there that kind of translated really well to what you're doing in terms of branding inside the stadium, outside the stadium?
I worked in entertainment at Six Flags, and there you are marketing, I was marketing roller coasters and family fun. So no matter what, you're still competing with other ways for families to spend their discretionary income, whether it's at a theme park, or my job after that was at a hospitality company, Great Wolf Resorts, where, again, another family type hospitality company, but in hotels. But it's you have to look at the way that families have, what the amount of money they have and how they're spending their money. And you have to get them to choose to go to some place like Six Flags or choose to spend their money on season tickets at the Buccaneers. So a lot of it's very transferable in how you position your brand. I'd say the one big thing that was the difference is I can't control the play on the field, right? I can't control if it's a winning season or a losing season. At a company like Six Flags, where you know what your roller coasters are, you know how fast they are, you know how tall they are, you know how many family kids rides you have, you know that this roller coaster is a record breaker and it's the tallest in the world, and you can market that. On the team side of things, and especially in the NFL, my job can change in an instant overnight because we signed Tom Brady, or because we, all of a sudden we win in Green Bay and now we're heading to the Super Bowl last year. So I think the foundation of marketing, branding, and that my experience in sales in my past help you with that foundation. And then when you come to an organization like the Buccaneers, it's just adjusting to the fan base and adjusting to the way that you're just changing the way you're telling your story so that you can connect.
Going from Six Flags to where you have more control to a place where you don't. How do you personally and your department, how do you deal with that?
My first couple of years here, season 17 and 18, we didn't have that success on the field. And so, the first thing we did when I came in is, we did a segmentation study. We really did a deep dive into who our fans are and what potential fans can look like. What do those potential fans look like? People who are on the fence, where they like football, or they're interested in doing things outside and being active, but they're not an avid fan. And we really focused on how do we convert those people, especially if we're not winning on the field. In the first couple of years, we weren't. And I think by laying that foundation of, some just, true marketing, going out, understanding the market, doing the research, connecting with fans, and then building strategies and plans around each age group, each demographic, working with the schools from the community side and getting into the schools, working with the youth groups and the little leagues and, flag football, and really trying to find different ways to get into the community and start to get the community to embrace us from a community perspective and also from a marketing perspective.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I think this is it for my portion of tonight. Adam, Nikki, and Christi, I actually learned so much. Thank you. I feel like there's always so much to learn in the ever-changing world of media. So thank you guys so much for sharing a little bit of a peek into your worlds. Thank you to all the women also on the call. You guys have to remember, I know there are very hard days doing what you do, and you have to remember that you are inspiring so many people. You will never know the depth of the impact you're having, but it's really incredible. So you are part of this forward progress. So be proud of that. And thank you for doing what you're doing. And I think you guys are now going into breakout rooms. So I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much.
Hello, Nikki. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. So I am the director of football operations at my local high school here. What was the most comprehensive marketing strategy you created and executed at the Buccaneers?
No doubt, Raise the Flags. So Raise the Flags is our current campaign. It's third year of having this campaign in full force out in the market. And this campaign has really deepened their connection with our fan base. So at the core, Raise the Flags is our rallying cry. We have our logo, obviously, is a flag, and we have flags in our stadium. We have flags out in the community, and basically it's something that everyone can participate in. So when we say Raise the Flags, it could be literally you raising a flag outside of, putting a flag on a pole and hanging it outside of your house on game day. That's a Bucs flag. It can mean wearing your Bucs gear proudly out in the market, and that's how you raise the flags. You're wearing your hat, you're wearing your your hoodie, or it could also be somebody just sharing how they raise the flags online and say, this is how I raise the flags.
My name's Maya. I'm the director of football operations at Princeton University. Is there some skill sets you should have when keeping up with your relationship with the partnerships?
It's relationships, it's people skills. That's one of the biggest ones. And you could probably tie that into communication, right? And communication can translate to a lot of different things, but being genuine, being transparent, being honest, trustworthy, those things are going to instill, confidence in people that, there's brands that are putting a lot of resources, specifically financially behind us to say, hey, you're going to help us accomplish our goals and objectives. There's a lot at stake there. So I think communication is probably one of the biggest foundations.
Hello, my name is Carson Bard, and I'm a Duke student. I'm studying operations in our master's program. I also work with the Duke football team with equipment and in operations. So what is the next untapped segment that the Bucs are hoping to tap into to expand their fan base?
I think one of the biggest areas of opportunity we're focusing on, at least in my group, is kind of that next generation fan, right? How are we engaging them through educating and growing the game, but also through entertainment, through personality-driven content. I think I mentioned earlier how that helmets off personality content is a big focus of ours, and one of the reasons for that is we are finding that fans these younger fans are associating with players first before teams, right? So they've got their favorite players, and then they're becoming fans of the teams as a result. So how do we make our team, our players, these fan favorites? And so we go a lot with personality driven content for that reason. And then also on the digital side in particular, really diving into TikTok and some of these other next gen platforms.
Hi, my name's Sydney Bryant. I'm a current graduate student at George Mason University studying sports and recreation studies. My question was just about maintaining and also growing partnerships when the team maybe is going through a lower point, so you don't have that on-field performance. And I was just wondering, I know you spoke about it in terms of the partners that you already had and just being able to kind of reassure them and keep those lines of communication. But how do you grow in other partnerships, or if there are partners or brands that you guys have wanted to work with, how do you kind of utilize the brand overall to reassure them when trying to get them to enter into deals?
It's easier when you're winning, right? Everybody likes a winner. And so that is definitely there. Our priority is to focus on the value of a partnership, regardless of what's happening on the field. And, a lot of the ways we do that, number one, we're going to be consultative. We're going to listen to them. We're going to find out what are your priorities, right? Whether we're exceeding, excelling, or struggling, that is secondary to their priorities. So we want to listen and learn what are your priorities. And then once we get there, we collaborate to find solutions. And that doesn't really change good or bad, wins or losses. In terms of, some of the differences, what we look for, again, objective ways to show value, right? So whether we're winning and everybody's excited or not, and that subjectiveness creeps in, it's, hey, we take all of our personal feelings out of this. We identified your objectives, we work together to create programs, and then here are the results, we execute it.
Hello, my name is Joy Topajczyk. I currently work with the player personnel department in Cleveland with the Browns. And my question is about strategy. I'm very much interested in a trade by strategy. So could you please describe the process for creating your strategy? Like who and what informs the process?
Objectives at the end of the day, we have our core mission. I think Nikki spoke a lot about that. At the end of the day, we're celebrating the game of football, growing the game of football, supporting the community that supports us. And so when I look at like what our strategy is going to be on a year by year basis, I usually typically take it from evaluating the past year, right? Like I put our strategy together right now for next season. So I take a look at the year prior, and then holistically look at like what objectives we met, how did we hit sponsorship obligations? How did we drive revenue in certain instances? How did we drive engagement? How did we make the game day experience better for fans? And then really look at opportunities for new initiatives where we want to change based on some of those metrics, and put the strategy in place that way. I usually focus on 3 to 5 goals that we want to kind of hit this year and build out the tactics accordingly.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
My name is Evan Norman. I'm formerly the assistant director of on-campus recruiting for Mizzou football. I'm a free agent now, but my question is, how did your day-to-day responsibilities change when you were planning for marketing and entertainment for the Super Bowl?
The day-to-day definitely changed a lot. But it was the best, all the way through the parade, I would say the best 3.5 weeks. And what's really a great quote is my former boss said to us, he said, I've worked so hard my whole life and I've worked so hard to work this hard. Like he basically said, I worked so hard to have the chance to work this hard. And that kind of resonated with me, where you work hard all the time, 365 days a year, but now all that hard work is starting to pay off and you just have to work a little bit harder.